Classic Ironhide. There's either a face in there or a very poorly drawn thing on the seat. Sorry, I'm so close. How's the breath? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. We're taking a look at another Generation 1 Transformer. This time around, it is Ironhide. Now, Ironhide was released in 1984 as part of the first wave of Transformers. He was also available in 1985 and would be discontinued in 1986. Now, of course, a lot of the fans do complain about the lack of a head on Ironhide and his mold mate Ratchet as well. But the thing to understand about these, as I've shown in a previous video on this Generation 1 series, the original battle robot cars that Ironhide and many of the other Autobots came from Japan, were designed instead to be powered mecha, not sentient robots. So, that's why in here you have a sticker that forms a robot face, because that would have been the chair that the little figure from the Japanese toy would sit in. Now, of course, Ironhide here has always been a controversial figure because of that. There was a set of heads made for him and Ratchet by an independent third party. They were available a number of years ago. And I do know a somewhat more modern release of this version of Ironhide did include a head for him. So, there are options available if you want it to be somewhat more cartoon accurate. Of course, later on when I show off some more modern examples, you'll see that it may be easier just to buy a modern toy of Ironhide instead. But of course, there's also been some fans that have disagreed with the battle platform that he and Ratchet came with. But again, you really need to take into consideration this was designed as a different toy when it was originally released. Hasbro just grabbed up what they could, what they thought looked cool, made the changes that they needed, and got them out onto the shelves. Me, personally, I've never really had a problem with the battle platform. It's an interesting accessory, and it does break up the monotony of everybody else as well. Let's take a brief moment now to take a look at Ironhide's accessories. Besides him and the battle platform, we do have this static laser gun. Of course, this is done up in chrome colors, like a lot of the pieces were on the Generation 1 toys, especially early in the line. So chrome wear is a factor when looking for loose samples, if that means something to you, of course. This one is, surprisingly, for a 1984 toy, this is actually in pretty good shape. And of course, we also need to point out that you also, for this gun, you need this red post. This is just basically a red piece of hollow plastic. It connects down here. This is basically so that the gun can be stored in its rightful position. I don't think it really matters which way it faces. There's nothing to clearly denote which end is the open end. Which end is the end that shoots out. But also something to point out is that the gun itself can be stored without the post on Ironhide's torso when you have him in vehicle mode. Now, while that's a decent way to store it so you don't lose it, unfortunately, that's probably how so many of these have wound up lost over the years. Because there's no place for the red post. And, of course, as you can probably barely see there from the camera, there are 3 of these missiles. These are little micro missiles for the missile launcher. I imagine they would shoot at a decent range, but Hasbro neutered the missile launchers in Ironhide, so he has no spring whatsoever. But they are kind of neat to look at. There is one more accessory that's worth pointing out, and that is his chrome hip piece. Okay, this one's probably stuck on or something, but there are samples of this toy where the chrome piece can be removed. So it's definitely something you want to keep an eye out for if you're buying it when you go to buy one of these loose on the secondary market. Alright, without the accessories in the way, we'll take a brief look here at Ironhide's articulation, and as expected from a Generation 1 figure, he really didn't have a whole lot. The arms pretty much stick out to the side about so far, and they rotate horizontally at his shoulder, but you can rotate him the arm all the way at the elbow. So, rather weird, but if nothing else, you can wind his arm back for a devastating punch or something. And of course you can shift the ankles, but that's more for transforming Ironhide than of any practical play value. So now we will transform Ironhide. The first thing we're going to do is we take his arms, you rotate them at the elbow all the way around so the tires are facing the ground. Then we will shift his upper body upwards like so. Then you can bend his arms in, and they will attach in like so. They don't seem to do the best on this example, but they're at least in. And then we come down here to the feet, and we will fold the feet up like so. And that helps form the lower portion of the van. To get the battle platform ready, we take the missile launcher, fold it down against the stalk, and then fold that down so it rests on the seat. We bring up the 2 side panels. These are rather delicate, so you do want to be somewhat careful. They are thin plastic. Press them together, and then we can close the back door. Rotate the front tread section. Give the treads a slight twist before you press it all the way in so that they will go in. Like I said, make it very slight of a twist. You twist it too much, they will break. And then this central tread folds inward like that. And then you just snap it on into the back. And then there you have it. Ironhide is in his alternate mode. He has a Nissan Vanette. He's in a special rare variant of a Cherry Vanette, which puts him in not only in this red color, but gives him this stripe that runs along the side. Of course, some people wonder why back here at this spot does it go black. Well, he's a minivan. This would be where the door would slide, if he actually had working doors. And while he may not have working doors, he does have real rubber tires here, so that is a bonus. Now, how well does he roll on these tires? Rolls pretty good, all things considered. Let's quickly get him back into the robot mode. So that way we can show off some of the last things we need to do. And I think I'll put it so the long end's sticking out this time. Maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, but nothing's really clear, and as I said, nothing's definitively says it's the gun barrel. Here, hold your launcher. Now we'll reach over here for his tech spec card. Thank you, Larry. The picture and such is all done up in red to signify he is an Autobot. It even says Autobot above his picture. And of course, this picture would match the one on the front of the package. It looks like they use the long end as the gun on him, but they also seem to depict that the missile launcher could turn to the side. Unfortunately, that is not possible on the toy. Ironhide's function is listed as security, and a quote associated with him is, "High-tech circuitry is no replacement for guts." "Go chew on a microchip" is Ironhide's slogan. Prefers action to words. Oldest, toughest, most battle-tested Autobot. Bodyguard to Optimus Prime. In charge of guarding anything of importance. Gruff but kind. Trilithium steel skin makes him nearly invulnerable to attack. Shoots variety of liquids from supercooled nitrogen to superheated lead. Has sonar, radar, radio wave detector. Slowest and most fragile of the group. And at least they did incorporate some of this into Ironhide's character, because he was a gruff character, but he also was kind to their human allies and such. So he even promised in the animated film to deliver a message to Spike's son Daniel. Unfortunately, as we saw in the events of the movie, Ironhide would be cruelly gunned down. And probably get the most disturbing of deaths, if you think about it. Since dying from his wounds, he tried to grip onto Megatron's leg. Unfortunately, the leg that above it had Megatron's fusion cannon. So while the animation cut away during the blast, it's somewhat implied Megatron blew his head off. The mentioning of him being the most fragile of the group is further elaborated on in the More Than Meets the Eye guides, as they kind of state that Ironhide has older parts than many of the other Transformers, and Ratchet does tend to have a harder time replacing many of those parts when Ironhide is damaged. So Ironhide here spends most of his time in the medical bay when he's not on duty. We'll take a look here now at his grid of stats. Normally you'd need a decoder to read this, but I can read the lines pretty good. It gives his strength as 7, his intelligence is 7, his speed is 3, his endurance is 9, his rank is 7, his courage is 10, his firepower is 7, and his skill is 7. So, aside from a lack of speed, which the thing does indicate, Ironhide is pretty above average in a lot of his stats. And of course, since Ironhide's been around since 1984, there have been numerous toys made of him. I do not have all of them, and even if I did, it might require a whole video to itself. But I do have a few of the modern ones. Many of them have been seen on this channel. Right here is the Siege version of Ironhide. It still gave him a minivan-like alternate mode, and he came with a rocket launcher that doubled as a hammer for a strange reason. This mold of Ironhides would not only be shared with Ratchet, but with several other toys that came out in the following years. And to go along with that, it would also be heavily retooled during the Earthrise line to make this version of Ironhide. This one was again done up to more resemble his Generation 1 counterpart. And his shield here forms the top of the van, just like the Generation 1 toy, but it also has an alternate mode that's intended to imply the battle platform from the Generation 1 toy. So, a nice, neat little addition. Shows somebody at Hasbro liked the battle platform. Then, of course, not too long ago, we got this version of Ironhide. It's the Studio 86 version of Ironhide. So we now have a cartoon-accurate version, or semi-cartoon accurate, as there is a new version of this Ironhide available. It has battle damage in the torso, so it's to imply him being gunned down. Like the previous Ironhide, the Earthrise one, it is sold in a 2-pack with Prowl. So we get to my thoughts now. What do I think of Ironhide? Ironhide as a character is a good character to have. He was a battle-hardened veteran, and somebody that the Autobots certainly needed in their ranks. Let's face it, that kind of role for him would get taken over by Cup after the events of the 1986 film. Another grizzled veteran with a lot of experience and too tough to quit or die easily. As a toy, this version, when compared to a lot of the others, it is very poor. There's no two ways about it. The toy is very fragile, especially with, like I said, the rear treads on the battle platform. Because if those break, then you can't use the battle platform. It won't stay up or transform right. The lack of a head, I've really never been bothered by that. But I'm probably in the minority of that, and I'm comfortable with that. But all in all, it's still not too bad of a toy to say it's not worth having. But I think most Ironhide fans would probably prefer a modern one over his original. And that's my review of the Generation 1 version of Ironhide. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please do remember that if you like the content we feature here on this channel, I would appreciate a like, a share, and a comment. And please do subscribe if you haven't done so already. This is Sparkster1701 saying I'll catch you all later.